Hello, everybody, and welcome to one more class in our secret garden, the place where you get to practice your English with the thing that you love the most, Taylor Swift lyrics. And this week, starting this week, because guys, we are entering, Taylor has given us a little bit of a break with the last previous songs. While they were still sad, she kind of hit it well with the beat and the melody and, some cheeky lyrics. But starting today, I think it's probably better if you bring tissues to class because these are going to be devastating songs. Today we're going to work on Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus off of the anthology. And then starting next week, we are getting into track 5 territory with So Long London and then eventually How Did It End? So it's going to get very sad, very depressing, but also what an incredible opportunity for you to really connect your English to something so deep, right? And so sentimental. These songs will allow you to practice your English probably in a way that you haven't before. So I hope that you come here with an open heart and an open mind. I don't want you to be, again, I always say this and I will always say this, don't get too stuck about who this song is for. Always go back to that idea that it's really about Taylor and about how this made her feel, right? And what she was able to express based off of this experience. And then, of course, we are going to bring that into our own lives and how we can relate to this or not relate to this and why, okay? So let's get started. Let me share here the screen. And let's go line by line as usual.
Your hologram stumbled into my apartment.
So now read, okay, the line, and then give your thoughts and your ideas of why do you think she opened up the song in this way, okay? Your hologram stumbled into my apartment. What is a hologram? Okay, a hologram is going to be a 3D image, right? That is projected with lights. I don't know exactly the science behind it, but I know they use lasers. And with the use of lasers and the play and the light, it's like you have this real life 3D. I know a lot of people now, there are concerts that are being done using holograms. So it's like you have the real thing, like the real person there. I remember when, I'm going to speak of the unspeakable here, but Kanye West gave Kim Kardashian as a gift a hologram of her father who passed away. So I thought that's, I don't know, it's a little strange. But so here she's saying, your hologram stumbled into my apartment. Now that we know that a hologram is not something real, right? So this is not the person that's there, but it's the projection, right? She's projecting this person there. It can just be a memory that stumbled, right? This verb to stumble is when you walk kind of like wobbly and like almost falling and bumping into things. That's when you are stumbling. So it's something that she couldn't even help, like it just happened, right? She's not trying to think about this person, but suddenly, poof, right? He is there in her apartment. And what does she see? Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, okay? A lot of people got hung up with these names, right? Who are these people? What are these names, right? We have girl names, we have boy names. And the fact that she says of somebody in darkness, it really, the point here, I don't want you guys, right, to get hooked on like who is this song about, but the point is that it doesn't matter who it's about. It could be anyone at this point with this person, because what this line shows is that whoever this other person is, they have moved on and they are doing their thing with Could be anyone, basically, as it seems, okay? And really you can see the disconnect, right, that exists now between them, that she doesn't know, right? She's very unfamiliar with his life right now, and what is happening. So because of this, what does she do?
And I just watched it happen.
And I just watched it happen. Okay, so here, by her just simply watching, she's kind of showing us how powerless she is, right, to this situation. There's nothing she can do but become an observer, right, of all these events that are unfolding in his life, right? There's this helplessness, and a sense of like resignation, like there's nothing she could do or nothing that she would do maybe to stop it, okay? And we will see how this is going to unfold more.
As the decade would play us for fools.
As the decade would play us for fools, right? So here we learn that there's been a span of 10 years, right? That these guys have been at this game, right? As the decade would play us for fools. This, here we kind of get a sense in this song that there is the idea between fate and free will. It reminds me a lot of Peter when she says, the goddess of timing once found us beguiling, right? There's this force, right, that time plays, and it's almost like time itself is playing a game on them or is tricking them, right, where they believe one thing, but actually, as time passes, things change, or they're not, who they are today may not be who they thought they would be today as they imagined back 10 years ago too, right? So there's all this at play. Also the idea in prophecy, right? In the prophecy, when, is there anybody out there like that could do anything to help her change her fate too, okay? As time plays, right, a role here in their relationship. You saw my bones out with somebody new who seemed like he would have bullied you in school. Bones, okay? So Bones is going to give us two ideas. One, that, as she is with this somebody new, this other person, it's almost as if she is lifeless, like there is no flesh, right? There's nothing else but the bones. It's almost as if she's deteriorating. It gives us this idea that she's lifeless with this person. And also the fact that we can only see our bones through an X-ray machine, right? So it's like, it's as if this other person, right, knows her so well that he can see right through, right, the facade. Like she's with this person, but she doesn't really love this person, right? It's almost like she's just there. And then the fact that this person that she is with at this moment would have bullied him at school, you see that it's probably a completely different person than the other ones, like a total contrasting, like views. And almost antagonistic, the fact that this person would have bullied him, right? So we kind of get this picture of what type of person that would be. But then we see, right? So there is this feeling here that, it's awkward and uncomfortable. And it's almost as if when she says the next line,
And you just watched it happen.
right? It's almost as if she is even a little angry, right? That this person, he knows her and he sees that she's just there with her bones and he does nothing, right? He's also resigned in his position and watching this, allowing this to happen, and he doesn't do anything about it. Now we get into the heartbreaking chorus, okay? If you want to break my cold, cold heart, just say I loved you the way that you were. Now, why would this break her heart? Because of the things that they went through, their experiences, it's almost like she has closed off her heart and her heart has become cold, right? But he has the power, right, to break through this emotional defense, right, that she has put up in her heart by simply admitting the fact that he did indeed love her the way that she was, right? By admitting that he did love her back then, this gives her the idea that they actually could have had a shot at this relationship, right? So imagine everything, all the heartache that she suffered all these years, this decade that passed, could have been different, right? And that could have all changed. And another thing also that could be another heartbreaking factor is that he loved her the way that she was, right? And this means that maybe he can't love her now the way that she is because she has changed and she's somebody different than 10 years ago. So we have this idea, right, that it could imply that this person may only have loved a past version of her and not this actual version of who she is today, which is deeply painful, right, to imagine. And doesn't stop there. She continues. If you want to tear my world apart, just say you've always wondered, right? So just to imagine that this person wonders about her and what could have been, and if they were to be together, it's almost like that little hope, right? If he wonders, then does that mean that he still cares, right? Does he put completely out of her life? Like she doesn't think that there is a chance. But if there is wondering going on, then maybe there is a chance, right? And it's always the unknown, right? It's the unanswered questions that keep us up at night, right? Call back to midnights, and we will have a little call back to midnights here soon.
You said some things that I can't unabsorb.
So now she's gonna tell us, right, the reasons why it didn't work out, right, all that time ago. So starting with, you said some things that I can't unabsorb, right? So this is a very powerful word to say, unabsorb, because when something is absorbed, it's almost as if these words have become a part of her being, and it's like it changed her in a very fundamental way. And when something is absorbed, you can't unabsorb, right? That's what she says. So this person said some things to her that were deeply impactful and impossible to forget, right? I imagine very hurtful as well.
You turned me into an idea of sorts.
You turn me into an idea of sorts, okay? So what does that mean, right? Does he actually love who she is, or does he only love the idea of her? This line suggests that, he doesn't actually see her as like a real complex person, but rather just like this abstract, right, concept or idealized version of what a partner could be or this relationship could be. And it really reflects, right, this loss of connection.
You needed me, but you needed drugs more.
And probably the biggest reveal, right, of the song. You needed me, but you needed drugs more. This brings so much more complexity to the whole thing, because now we are being introduced to this concept of addiction, right? In the song, in this relationship, anybody who has ever had any sort of relationship with an addict understands how painful this can be, because this is a disease. This is something, I know a lot of people are like, mind over matter. You can make a choice and a decision. And yes, you can't not stop using drugs unless you make this decision, but there's so much more to it. It is physiological, it is psychological. And as much as this person may have loved her, this disturbance, right, this self-destructive behavior was a part of their lives. And this is something that got in the way. And she says,
more and I couldn't watch it happen.
Right, she couldn't bring herself to watch this person, right, self-sabotage and self-destroy themselves as they got deeper and deeper into this lifestyle. So this is the moment, I guess, we learn that she gave up on this relationship and she left. She most likely felt helpless, right? That she couldn't help this person and she couldn't be part, right? Or she couldn't bear, to be complicit in this type of behavior, okay? Especially her, and her being as famous as she is and having the spotlight, not only in a personal level, but in a professional level as well. I imagine that this wouldn't be something that she would want associated with her image.
And I changed into goddesses, villains, and fools.
I changed into goddesses, villains, and fools. Right, so here we see her changing herself, like trying on all these different characters and personas as she tries to adapt and cope, right, with the changing circumstances of this relationship, the emotional turmoil. And what does one do when they're trying to avoid suffering? Usually we reinvent ourselves, right? We change something, we move the furniture, we dye our hair, we change our style. All this to try to avoid the pain that we are actually feeling and dealing with this pain, right, head on.
Changed plans and lovers and outfits and rules.
Now that she said lovers, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I see goddesses, villains, and fools, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like 1989, Reputation, Lover. As like, she was on such a high pedestal at the 1989 era, and then Villains, right, with Reputation. And she was a little bit of a fool during the Lover era too, a little bit in denial. I don't know. She adds, right, change plans and lovers and outfits and rules. She's continuing to emphasize and reinforce this idea that she had to change, right? Try different approaches, people, strategies, all to deal with the fallout of this relationship.
All to outrun my desertion of you.
All to outrun my desertion of you. And I see a lot of people interpreting this line as he left her, but my desertion of you actually means that she left him. She committed the desertion, okay? She deserted him. And she did all this, right? Changed herself, changed her plans, changed everything about her life to outrun this desertion, because she probably feels very guilty for leaving him at that moment, especially because there was addiction involved. So anybody who has ever dealt with somebody that has had an addiction, or even any sort of mental health issue, where that it's not only the person's character, it's not about it that they're hurting you because they are bad, but a lot of it is out of their control, right? Because it's something in their mind or in their body that makes them act a certain way, and that makes you feel empathy towards them, like we feel very bad. But again, right, there's only so much one can do and can take to be. It's very difficult to be in a relationship with somebody like this. And I imagine that she felt like, could she have stayed? Could she have helped? Like, could she have done something to help pull him out of this state? So she is probably just trying to, run away and do all these things to try to not feel guilty for leaving.
Of you, and you just watched it.
And you just watched it, right? So this person is probably watching her through the years and watching her do all these things and change herself and change all these things about her life. And in the back of his mind, he probably knows, right? He is the driving force behind this, because she is a public figure. So he can for sure see, and he didn't do anything, right? He didn't acknowledge it. He didn't reach out. He didn't try to stop her doing any of it. He just watched it, okay? Which makes it, again, right, all that more bridge. Devastating. Let's go back, break it down.
If the glint in my eye trace the depths of your...
If the glint in my eye trace the depths of your sigh, okay? It's so beautiful, because a glint is a small flash of light, right? So it's like her eyes are sparkling, right? It's that starry type of eye in love, right? So if the glint in my eye traced, right, followed the depths of your sigh, and a sigh is this like long and deep in time, back to the moment I crashed into you, okay? I love this line. So down that passage in time is going to represent going back in time down to that decade, right, that she mentioned before. And crashed into you is going to be this moment where it's like this sudden, impactful meeting that they had. And that connection, that bond that kind of changed everything for her. And it kind of set the course for everything that was bound to happen in her life afterwards.
Like so many wrecks do, too impaired by my youth to know what to do.
Okay, so crashed into you like so many wrecks do, too impaired by my youth to know what to do. Okay, this is probably one of my favorite lines that she has ever written. It's so beautiful. Okay, so whenever we think about a wrecking ball, right, whenever somebody wrecks into something, is this crash, right? And a wreck, a person who is a wreck, is somebody that creates these crashes and these messes in their lives, right? So she is comparing themselves to wrecks because they were too impaired by their youth, right? They were too young to know what to do, right? They were wild and crazy, and they didn't have the tools, the knowledge, the experience to deal with those circumstances at that time. Okay. And here she's also letting us know that the fact that they were so immature and inexperienced is what contributed to the relationship's challenges and possible downfall, right? This breakdown that they suffered. So sad. Okay. So if I sell my apartment and you have some kids with an internet starlet, okay, will that make your memory fade from the scarlet maroon? Okay, this one caught everybody by surprise. So here she is, throwing out options and things that they can do to for them to forget about this experience, right? This relationship that they had. So for her would be selling her apartment, okay? And let's compare what his would be, right? Hers to his, because she says, and you have some kids with an internet starlet, with a popular influencer, right? From social media. So it's interesting that for him would be moving on and starting a family, and for her would just be selling her apartment, meaning like it would be almost like a transactional material thing. She would just sell the apartment where this hologram keeps appearing, and I guess they have a lot of memories. And then it brings us back to Maroon, right? That apartment in New York where they used to always hang out at. This is probably the apartment that she is talking about. And she's asking, like, well, that is the lips I used to call home, right? So scarlet, it was maroon. And scarlet being this bright, vivid red, right? These strong, deep emotions all turning to maroon, right? This darker shade, the faded red, as if like this is a dying love now. But in that song she says, right, and I wake with your memory over me, right? That's a real fucking legacy to leave, which there's a play in the words in that song too, but we'll work on that when we work on that song. But it's just, you know, making this connection between this song and that song just lets us know, right, of the deep, lingering emotions that remain from their time together, then and now.
Like it never happened.
Right? Like it never happened. And I feel like this is something that Taylor works so much in all of her songs. It seems like her partners like to pretend their relationships never happened. And she's like, you know, it was rare. I was there. I remember it, right? All too well. You can't, like, will these things be enough for you to act like it never happened? Because it did happen. And that's the point, right? It doesn't matter if it didn't last. The experience remains. The feelings remains, right? Those emotions were very real and they live inside of us, right? Whenever we have them. And I feel like she always wants to drive this point home. Like, we can't pretend like nothing happened when it actually did happen, right? And we have to make of that whatever we may, but it was real, right? It did happen. So
could it be enough to just float in your orbit?
right. Could it be enough to just float in your orbit, right? What does it mean to float in your orbit? Almost as if they are planets, right? And satellites and just going around each other. But it's almost as if like, okay, if we're not gonna be together, is it okay to just be close enough and, you know, be around you, but not get too close, right? Never meet or anything, but for me to kind of be in the same air as you or the same space as you.
Can we watch our phantoms like watching wild horses? Cooler in theory, but not if you force it to be.
Okay, this is probably one of the most common questions I get. What does this mean? Can we watch our phantoms like watching wild horses? Okay, cooler in theory, but not if you force it to be. So can we watch our phantoms, right? What are phantoms if not the ghosts of our past, right? The memories. So can we watch these memories like watching wild horses? And then we have to think about wild horses, because wild horses are magnificent creatures. And it's not easy to watch them because they do live in the wild and they're out and about. So it's not like you can just find them anywhere and watch them, right? This is something that happens spontaneously and naturally. So this is why she says it's cooler in theory, right? If we can picture our old relationship, our past, right? These ghosts, these phantoms, and they're so beautiful because it was such a special experience that we had with each other. We had such a deep connection, so unique. So it's almost as if everything that they have from their past and their memories is something that if they tried to relive or tame again, wouldn't be the same, right? Everything has just become this theory and this idea, but it's not what is going to happen in reality, okay?
It just didn't happen.
Okay? It just didn't happen. So it's like, there's no, remember, we go back to that idea of fate. It's not that fate wasn't on their side. It doesn't matter what they did or what they tried to do or what they would have done differently. It just didn't happen. And sometimes in life, things sometimes just don't happen. And that's a part of life, right? So this is something that we have to learn to accept, right? And learn from. But it's almost as if she's saying, like, we can't keep trying to make our relationship be something that it actually wasn't, because it just never actually happened. Here she says, just say you loved me, right? It's not even like the way that I was, just, did you love me at all? Like, if me knowing that you love me just in any way, that already would break my heart, right? Because I probably lost, right, a great love in my life that she never got to live out. Say you always wonder. So now she changed, say you've always wondered in the past to you will always wonder in the future. So this is something that he will continue to think about, right? This is what, if he did that, that would tear her world apart, right? That he will always wonder if they could have ever worked out, right? And she's gonna end the song with the heartbreaking, 'cause I wonder, will I always wonder, right? So she's admitting to us that she wonders, right? What could have happened if they were to be able to have this relationship and be together. And she asks, right, this, and she's asking if she will always ask this. Will she always wonder? Is this something that will be forever in the back of her mind, right? This is why I say this reminds me a lot of The One, but very tortured, right? Because in The One, she says, if one thing had been different, would everything resolved, right? Us not having closure with somebody, how torturous that is, right? How that's something always in the back of our mind, and it really doesn't allow us to move on with our lives fully, for us to be fully happy, because she did, right? She said she moved on, she changed herself, she had many lovers, but was she ever truly happy with any a past relationship or past situation in our lives? How would we be today had we made different choices? So this is what I want you guys to think about today. I'm going to ask you guys lots of questions in our writing prompts. So try to answer them and think about them. You don't have, guys, you don't have to answer everything at once, right? Answer one question at a time and give yourself permission to think and wonder. And just have a song that has so many different interpretations. I literally went by the words that are there, but I can't wait to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your interpretations, okay? This can go so many different ways. And again, right, this is why there are so many fights, right, in the fandom about who this song is about. To me, it's pretty clear about who it's about, but I know people will disagree. But it doesn't matter, right? It's about the fact that she ends the song asking, will I always wonder, right? And hopefully the answer to that is no, right? There will come a time, and I think this time hopefully is already here, that you know, right? You know the answer, and that you are able to move on, right? You know in your soul when it's time to go. And hopefully she feels that way today, and she's happy today, as is my wish for all of you. So thank you guys so much. I told you, bring the tissues for next class again. Next week we have our live, okay? So prepare for that. I'm gonna send everybody out an email. Join the WhatsApp group if you're not there yet. The link is in the welcome section of the platform. And I will see you guys next class. Bye.